clean, green, pure Aotearoa, a country once governed by cultural law. But colonisation led to urbanisation and changed the landscape of an entire nation. Iconic symbols of our identity, the koro, kiwi and silver fern, sit on the brink of extinction. But there is a natural remedy, an all-encompassing solution. A holistic approach to ecological restoration using MāTAURANGA Māori. MāTAURANGA Māori can be defined as knowledge or understanding of everything that exists in the universe. This includes modern and traditional knowledge. Restoration of our biodiversity will benefit the whole country, but for iwi Māori, it connects all tangible and non-tangible things. From a holistic view, our environment, health and culture are all linked, not considered in isolation, but naturally synced. Understanding and valuing the world view is an essential step to ensure a bicultural approach to holistic restoration. As guardians of the land, we know that a sustainable future is based on our responsibility to protect, restore and enhance natural resources, which brings me great sorrow because we live day by day not even thinking about tomorrow. We measure wealth over health, greed over need, and our population over the next generation. And this is the result. Our ecosystems have suffered degradation in all areas, having a huge impact on our national biodiversity that has a ripple effect on our economic, social, and cultural well-being. So the question of the day, how do we reverse degradation? A holistic approach to ecological restoration using MāTAURANGA Māori. A holistic approach is the most natural solution to improve our lifestyles, beginning with the environment, building resilient and sustainable ecosystems. Our national identity will be strengthened with economic resilience and cultural diversity, and our whānau will benefit with improvements in their health and well-being, cultural identity, and sense of empowerment. In these times of change, nature-based solution can address growing challenges such as natural disasters, climate change, and food security. Natural solutions focus on protecting and restoring ecosystems on a massive scale. For example, forests stabilise slopes and reduce the risk of landslides. Wetlands can regulate floods. Reforestation and investing in soil health and coastal restoration can reduce emissions. There are some examples such as Hurricane Katrina. The US Congress funded a restoration program of ecosystems around the islands and coasts to help reduce the economic damage and loss of lives following disasters. And closer to home, following the Tarawera eruption in 1986, a native plant known as tutu colonised areas covered in pumice and ash. Through restoration efforts, we can create and continuously renew the atmosphere, hydrological cycle, soil fertility, and naturally regulate the weather and the climate. To make large-scale restoration credible and viable, we need new partnerships between government, iwi, scientists, consumers, and producers. Each partner holds a vital piece of the puzzle: the tools, the resources, and the knowledge. A holistic restoration program would enable communities and individuals to equally share responsibility for and benefit from conserving and sustainably using New Zealand's biodiversity, including the benefits from the use of Indigenous resources. Our native plants are a source of well-being for iwi Māori. Rongoa traditions were passed down by our ancestors, and the ngahere restores our mauri or life essence. Holistic restoration will provide a spiritual, physical and mental pathway toward improving well-being, creating independence and empowering iwi Māori. The health and well-being of families will contribute to healthy lifestyles for all New Zealanders, who will benefit from healthy rivers, soils, forests, and better connected communities. As with any project, there are some limitations to be considered, such as the uncertainty of time scale set out to complete projects, high costs may be required at the commencement of projects, and failure has occurred in the past restoration projects when clear goals were not set out. Nothing that can't be fixed with collaborative planning and effective consultation. Now, New Zealand has the highest rate of threatened species in the world. Pest control, pesticides, and exotic weed species are major threats that destroy our ecosystems. Holistic restoration will build more resilient landscapes that can accommodate our endemic species and eradicate threats. For example, there are toxins present in our native plants, such as tutu, karaka, poroporo, and kōwhai, that have infertility properties that could be used against pest populations. Iwi's kaitiaki assume responsibility for our taonga, and with an increasing number of Crown settlement packages, they are potentially in a position to provide resources as well as MāTAURANGA Māori towards implementation. Community-driven is important as all regions have different landscapes, ecosystems, and restoration needs. The solution is simple. Programs supported by government, led by iwi, and implemented by communities. My action plan would be Step 1, approach iwi leaders for support. Step 2, source funding. Step 3, develop restoration partnership agreements. Step 4, develop a shared 5. And Step 5, monitor and evaluate. The results, jobs, prosperity, and enjoyment. I'll give you an example of how and why we need holistic restoration projects, and I'll use the Manawatu. Ko tararua ngā pai maunga ko Manawatu te awa, ko rangitane te iwi. Envisage the picturesque landscape of the Tararua Ranges, once known as Te Tāpere Nui o Whātunga, the great food basket of Whātunga. The region was an abundant source of animals and fish life, with forests, swamps, and bushland full of tōtara trees, harakeke, kawakawa, and giant ferns. Wildlife thrived with tui, huia, and the cheeky piwaiwaka. The river was teeming with eels and freshwater crayfish. Actually, there were up to 30 species of native freshwater fish found in the gorge. Now, we have less than 10. And our beautiful awa was named one of the most polluted in the Western world. Unfortunately, we work in silos. Don't get me wrong, there are some great conservation and restoration projects underway, but there are also many issues with engagement and consultation that create a disjointed approach to ecological restoration. A holistic program would include connecting environmental and community groups guided by iwi expertise. By pooling resources, we could enable a regional program specific to the needs within the district. Iwi-led, community-driven. Papatuānuku is furious. Ranginui is crying. Our resources, our taonga are dying. Is this the master plan? Extinction caused by the greed of man? We have a choice to make. Sit back and accept it, or proactively correct it. There is a Māori proverb, "Whatu ngaro ngaro te tangata, toitu te whenua." As man disappears from sight, the land still remains. You see, it was never meant to be ours to destroy, but a banquet of resources that we could enjoy. How did we fall into this vortex of destruction, whirlwind of greed and mass production? Our connection with nature was quoted by Ora as having a role to play like the eels in the awa that clean our waterways. the ants that disperse the kumaraho seeds, the toi that propagates the fruits of our land, or the microbes in the earth that nourish the soil. We are not at the top of the ecological ladder, but a vulnerable species reliant on a sustainable ecosystem for survival. The kuru, with its circular shape and inner coil, is a metaphor for the way in which life both changes and stays the same. The kuru represents the past and the future, strengths and relationships. Today, I've used it throughout my presentation to symbolise a new beginning. Ko tākuto te manuka. The manuka leaves have been laid down. The challenge? To support a holistic approach to ecological restoration using MāTAURANGA Māori for the well-being of a nation. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Hana.
Kia ora, Hana. What's sustainable farming under MāTAURANGA Māori? What would sustainable farming look like?
So growing native plants, and growing them by the waterways as well. So not just, so growing them by the waterways and making sure that we are actually looking after them and we actually use them and benefit from them. We have a responsibility to look after them so we can benefit from them as well and use them sustainably.
Someone might argue that, I mean, you mentioned mass production. The reason we produce, the reason we have dairy farms, with all due respect to my fellow judge, is to feed us and bring in money.
Yeah.
Is that the wrong direction, are you saying?
No. Well, there's a Northland project that commenced in 2016, and farm owners have actually they actually go with the project, so they are behind it because the whole community is behind it as well, just as long as the benefits outweigh the costs. So they are actually for the project as an example. So no, I don't think that's the wrong direction, depending on how we use it. So yeah.
It would take a lot of buy-in, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people all signing up for the same vision.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.